Let's welcome in Daryl. He's brought to you by Shavin Jewelers, Cleveland's premier jewelry store. Hello, Daryl.
Hello, boys.
Wonderful to see you. Wonderful to hear you. Should we be making moves towards adding to this Browns team, or should we sell?
I would try and add an offensive tackle and a wide receiver, and preferably a wide receiver that's more than 6 feet tall.
Okay, that's easier said than done. So, are there any names at all, or are you just saying that that's where you'd want to go?
No,
I put you on the spot there, but
yeah, I just think that that's where the priorities should be, and you know, I don't think that the Browns need draft picks. They need players at this point. So it would be great if Andrew Berry could pull off another, Greg Newsome, Tyson Campbell type of trade and bring in a player that can come and help this football team out and get through the rest of this season. I'm not a fan of trading any of the offensive linemen, even the guys on expiring contracts. I just don't think that makes sense when you have young quarterbacks and you're already having offensive line problems as it is. And again, I think that they've got enough future assets. They need some guys that can come in and help them get through this season and help these young quarterbacks out.
Is there any chance, have you heard anything at all, speaking of the offensive line, like you look at Wyatt Teller, is there any chance they could sign Wyatt Teller to something that was kind of like what Jack Conklin signed a couple years ago to keep him around? Because you can't replace all five. You just can't do it.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly hope so, because I think Wyatt's one of the best in the league, especially with this particular scheme that Kevin Stefanski is running here. He's fantastic in the pin and pull game. Last year I think the entire unit struggled just because of what Ken Dorsey was asking everyone to do, and they got away from their bread and butter. But yeah, I absolutely would hope that they can keep Wyatt Teller. I think there's a pretty good chance that Joel Bitonio will retire after this season, and then obviously they have other decisions they need to make up front. But that is a unit that has struggled with health, more so on the ends, with the tackle situation being what it is with Conklin, as well as DeJuan Jones now being lost for the season. That is a tremendous area of weakness for this offense.
All right, Daryl, so how did you watch the NFL yesterday? We started the show kind of bickering about our passion for the league when the Browns are this bad. What was your Sunday like?
I was channel surfing and enjoying the good football that was to be watched. Watched the Colts lose to the Steelers. I watched like 10 minutes of the Sunday night game because it got out of hand so fast. Kansas City Buffalo was entertaining as well. It is amazing how different the sport of professional football looks when you're not watching the Cleveland Browns try and play it.
Well, I feel differently about it because now I've seen the Browns be competitive twice in the last 5 years.
Right.
And so I know what I'm missing. So there's like I feel so down, and I watched it yesterday because I'm supposed to, but I didn't enjoy myself. I didn't like it.
Well, the Joe Flacco thing, it just drives you nuts because he goes to Cincinnati and he's playing the way he did in 2023 for the Browns, which I think is an indictment of both Kevin Stefanski's offense as well as the personnel that Andrew Berry put together on that side of the ball as well. Mm-hmm. I think Joe Flacco is making the Browns look rather incompetent, and you basically gave him to the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, fortunately, I guess, the Bengals are losing still, despite Joe Flacco going down there and playing as well as Joe Burrow normally would, because their defense is just, it's a wet paper bag. They can't stop anybody, and you got wide receivers walking off the field bickering about needing to get one more stop and things like that. But again, I just think that, and I thought that that's the way this would go, or I feared that's the way it would go, is Flacco would go to Cincinnati, he would not look like he's washed, and the Browns would look completely foolish. And here we are, a couple weeks later, the Browns look really foolish. They look incompetent, as they usually do, both in the front office as well as the coaching staff.
Yeah, the thing is, they're not going to say that they thought he was washed. They're just going to say, well, it didn't make any sense at this stage. Another team needed him. They were going to give up an asset for him. What my confusion is, like, I just have zero trust that we'll be able to, pick out the next quarterback. Like, How will they know if it's the offense, the quarterback, or the situation they're in?
Yeah, I mean, I have zero faith that Andrew Berry's the guy to pick the franchise quarterback.
All right.
Zip, nada. I don't. Just as a lot of people don't have any faith that Kevin Stefanski is a good coach. I've said it time and time again. If you fire Kevin, you better fire Andrew. They're joined at the hip. They're in this together. If you keep Andrew, you got to keep Kevin. I don't think that you just Kevin goes and Andrew gets to stay, because again, Andrew Berry's responsible for the offense that Kevin Stefanski got to work with, the personnel. Okay, Cedric Tillman comes back, but you've got national analysts on game broadcasts making fun of the fact that your wide receiver core is full of a bunch of short guys that can't catch footballs. Like, Andrew Berry's the one that built the wide receiver room. Andrew Berry's the one that fortified, I put that in air quotes because he didn't really fortify the offensive line, but he's, you got two offensive tackles with injury history. And I know you don't want to have that negative mindset of, something can happen, but your job as GM, plan for the inevitables. Well, big shock. Jack Conklin's missed time with injuries. Big shock. DeJuan Jones missed time with injuries. I think Andrew Berry did a terrible job this offseason when it comes to the offense. But maybe that's by design. And, oh, by the way, your number one wide receiver on this team isn't really a number one wide receiver. And that's no shade at Jerry Jeudy, but he's a number two. He's being asked to do things that he shouldn't be asked to do. He's a number two wide receiver. I think Andrew Berry is just as culpable for the offensive incompetence as Kevin Stefanski.
Well, that was what I was going to follow up with, just to make sure that it sounded like you were saying you thought Andrew Berry was more responsible, but at the end you kind of said, they're both. So
they share in it. I don't think Kevin, granted he hasn't been given a lot to work with, but I think that better job could be done working with what you have.
All right. So Daryl Ruiter, our Browns beat reporter right now. So Jacksonville wins that game yesterday. Where would you predict right now those two first-round picks are going to land?
Well, Brown's going to have a top 5 pick, and I think Jacksonville got a good shot to make the playoffs. I was hoping that it was going to be in the mid-teens at worst, but probably going to be late teens if they make the playoffs. So, but still, having an extra first-round pick obviously is a good thing, and gives Andrew Berry some ammunition to be able to maneuver, around the draft board if he chooses to do so, to try and get one of these college quarterbacks who I don't know that anyone's really blowing anyone away as far as being the clear-cut number one prospect. Surefire can't-miss prospect in this class, but Nick Padone and I had the conversation yesterday. You almost wonder if they might be better off punting on one of these quote-unquote top college quarterbacks, filling some holes like, drafting an offensive lineman, which they haven't done in a little while, and then another position of need, and then finding another bridge quarterback and, maybe set yourself up for 2027. But the problem you have there is, well, you don't exactly kick the culture of losing, because if you keep punting on the whole quarterback thing, that means that you're wanting to be positioned to be able to get one of those guys.
Daryl, there's been a lot of debate over the last week about Mason Graham and the season he is having. There are some websites that analytically have him as just shy of like a dominant interior lineman. There are others that says that he is not so good. So where are you on Mason Graham and that experience so far, and whether or not that was the right pick?
Yeah, I don't think he's having, defensive rookie of the year type of season. If anything, I think that'd be Carson Schlesinger, who's, having that before he suffered the ankle injury there. But I think Mason's played well. And Jim Schwartz likes to say, you can't just grade a guy based on the box scores. And granted, Mason Graham's not exactly lighting up the box scores, but I think he's playing well within Jim Schwartz's defense, and I think he's helping, Myles Garrett out quite a bit too. So I don't have any regrets or any criticism for the move that Andrew Berry made, trading down, letting Jacksonville draft Travis Hunter, who, it hasn't exactly lit it up down in Jacksonville as a rookie, and now he's banged up a little bit. So I think hindsight being 2020, Andrew Berry made the right move in April.
Daryl Ruiter, brought to you by Scheib and Jewelers. Okay, what about like a conversation that people don't want to have, but we're going to have? What about like a Mac Jones there for next year? Then are you already considering him?
Yeah, I mean, I am considering any type of a reclamation project right now. And then part of me is kind of wishing that they would have stuck with the Kenny Pickett plan. But unfortunately, he got hurt in training camp, and that changed some things up there philosophically for the Browns. But, they went in, and you felt like, okay, it was going to be down to either Joe or Kenny for the starting job. They ultimately went with Joe. That lasted 4 weeks before they turned it over to Dylan Gabriel, and eventually they're going to turn this thing over to Shedeur Sanders at some point. Deshaun Watson right now is the third rail that nobody wants to touch out there, and understandably so, but I think that, again, depending how the rest of this college football season plays out, I think that we're going to be sitting here 4 months from now, Ken, and we're going to be combing through reclamation project quarterbacks that potentially could come in here and be the quote-unquote bridge to help them. Because, you don't want to have to do this. Last year, you were 3-14. This is another long season in the making, and you don't want another 3 years where you have good players on this roster and they ultimately be 3 consecutive lost years again. Next year does need to be about winning some football games. And so, you've seen teams around the league, find these veteran quarterbacks that still have something in the tank, help them win football games and be playoff contenders. And I think that is where the Browns' focus needs to be.
Daryl, we know you are a lover of baseball. What did you think of the level of heartbreak? People were comparing all the heartbreak. Cleveland got brought up in that, certainly, for a couple of our World Series losses. Where did it stack up with what transpired to Shane Bieber and Toronto Blue Jays?
Yeah, I mean, and the irony is there were so many former Cleveland Indians and Guardians on that Blue Jays team as well. You mentioned Shane Bieber. How about Ernie Clement? Setting the record for most hits in a postseason. That guy could barely get playing time here and hit his weight, and he goes up to Toronto, and he's got himself etched in the record books there. Mark Shapiro, of course, former GM and former president of the then Indians and now Guardians, up there as the president and CEO of the Blue Jays. Yeah, that was a heartbreaker. You take 2 or 3 in Los Angeles, you go home up 3-2. You just need to win 1 on your home field, and the Dodgers come to town and take both of those games, and they beat you in 11 innings in Game 7. Very reminiscent of what happened to the Indians there, not only in 1997 but 2016. So, but it was a great World Series. It really was, and if you didn't watch it, you missed out. It was a very fun World Series to watch, but. It's going to, I think, take the Blue Jays a little while to get over that one, just like it's taken the team here in Cleveland to get over their Game 7 heartbreaks.
I hate to compare the misery. I
agree with you, Ken.
Why does every miserable thing have to be compared to the miserable things that we've had to deal with? Just let them have their own miserable thing.
You have to find out who's more miserable.
Yeah, I don't need to have a miserable off. It doesn't matter to me. No.
Well, you know what? Cleveland still wins because they're the only team in Major League Baseball to lose 2 Game 7s of the World Series.
All right, I'll see you in hell. I've had enough of this conversation.
I'm sorry, Ken.
I've had enough of this conversation.
I'll talk to you guys Friday.
Bye. Daryl Ruiter, brought to you by Scheibman Jewelers, Cleveland's premier jewelry store. I hate that. Hate it. Oh, they lost their World Series Game 7. Was it worse in 2016? 2-1-6-4-7-4. Why? Why do we need to do that every time?
Go back and immediately access your worst thoughts and worst feelings.
Who even asked that?
They lost in 13 seconds in the AFC Championship game. Is that worse than the drive by John Elway? 2-1-6-4-7-4. No.
I don't know why anyone in town would ask that today.
Oh, it's on the sheet. I know it's on the sheet. I just don't know which one said it, so I'm not going to go shoot my mouth off.
I have not perused the entire sheet. Mitch, is that a question you were asking today?
It was.
Why did you want to know, Mitch?
Because I think one's way worse than the other.
Which one's... Well, wait a minute. Now I want to know which one's worse than the other. Which one's way worse than the other?
His mic's down.
He can come back maybe and answer that question.
Okay.